Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to check out this extremely cool Collecta figure. This is a beautiful interpretation of a woolly mammoth released by Collecta. I believe it's a deluxe figure. I just recently got my hands on this. It's a figure I've wanted to get a hold of for quite some time, and I actually had a request for a review of it by Kevs Prehistoric Reviews, so I wanted to give a huge shout out to him and let him know that we have officially arrived at the time that I get your review up that you had requested. And actually, if you guys get a chance, make sure you check out Kev's Prehistoric Reviews because he has some very cool reviews on his channel as well, and specifically actually a woolly mammoth, which is by a company that I cannot recall off the top of my head, but I watched his review and I was absolutely in love with that mammoth figure, and I'm hoping to get a hold of one at some point myself. So make sure you actually check the description. I'll include a link to that review for you guys to check out from Kev's Prehistoric Reviews because, again, a really cool looking mammoth figure that he had reviewed. But this one specifically from Collecta is a really nice looking figure. Overall, I think they've done a tremendous job on this figure, as they always do, because Collecta pretty much always delivers a beautiful figure. Whether it's an older figure, it still has a lot of charm to it and just something that you can't help but enjoy, or their newer figures, which are just absolutely incredible. This one, I'm not entirely sure when this was actually released. I don't know if the underside will tell me. Well, maybe if it was the correct way, I might be able to see it. So 2009, I believe, is the date there on the underside. So this one's been out for quite a while. So again, it's not your most up-to-date Collecta figure, but even taking that into consideration, I think it's an absolutely gorgeous looking figure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our mammoth, you can see it is beautifully sculpted as far as the overall shape and everything goes. Really nice looking as far as that aspect of the figure goes. You can also see the ear sticking out of the side of the head there. Some really nice looking fur detail up here on the head sculpt of our mammoth, and you can see the eye area is actually really beautifully sculpted. The eyes themselves are painted beautifully with a yellow and given a very nice black pupil. They do have a bit of a gloss coat to them, so they shine a little bit, but not quite as nice as probably what you would see currently from Collecta, but still looks pretty darn good overall. You can see that this side of the head is actually a little more available to see, actually, because this side is a little bit kind of tucked into the shoulder area. This side over here we can see a little better, and you can see that it looks overall very nicely done. Again, the ear is sticking out up there. The eye looks great over here. Some beautiful paint variation on the figure as well, with some nice variations of browns, and then kind of actually, which is a very interesting aspect of this figure, there's like a green dry brushing, and green is something that I wouldn't have expected to work on a mammoth, but somehow Collecta has managed to make that actually look really cool. And overall, I think that the touch of the green dry brushing was an actually brilliant idea on the part of Collecta, allowing the figure overall to look quite different than many other mammoth figures and have a very unique appearance to it. You can see the trunk looks great as we run down the entire length of the trunk. Nice fur detail on the trunk as well. And then we can get down here. You can see the inside of the trunk right there, kind of elaborated there with kind of like a dark pink, I would say. And then the tusks as well are really nice as far as the sculpt goes. Look at those. Those are beautiful. And one thing that I really love about the tusks is, of course, they're very nicely detailed. Like, you can see some nice cracks and crevices included within, but they've been given a very nice kind of a dark wash and sort of a nice, I guess it's like a dry brushing kind of, it appears. So basically they're just really beautifully weathered, and they look extremely realistic as far as that aspect goes. So the overall appearance to the tusks, I think, are excellent in every way. I really love that. Sometimes companies don't do things like that, like weather the tusks, and that's something you would absolutely see if a mammoth were still alive today. So Collecta doing it here on their model was absolutely awesome. Moving to the top of the head, you can see up here on like that dome area of the head that you have some nice variation of like a nice dark brown, but then it gets to like a black almost, and there's a very nice smooth transition as we get up there. You can see a little bit of a fluffier look to the fur there, a little bit shaggier, I would say. As you move down here into the side of the animal, you can see some kind of like some fur bunching up right there as the head is turning very sharply to the right. And then as we move down here, you can try to get an idea of what the inside of the mouth looks like there. Actually, that's a great spot to take a look at the inside of the mouth. You can see it's painted with a nice pinkish coloration in there. The inside of the mouth in general has a very nice lifelike look. No gloss coat or anything inside the mouth, unfortunately, which I think would have amped the realism of the figure up quite a bit, but it still looks pretty darn good. And then coming back here into the body, you again have that nice darker coloration like a black that runs along the back, and you can see that really nicely running down the spinal column of the animal. But then as we transition down, it turns into a nice brown, and again we have that green dry brushing, which really makes all the hair and fur detail pop so beautifully. You can see some nice musculature kind of displayed there in the front leg. As we move down into the foot looks pretty darn nice. Again, that dry brushing continues. You have some very nicely painted nails with like an off-white, some nice wrinkles there in the foot as well. You can see some beautiful detailing here actually in the chest region as well as far as that fur. Look at that nice wavy fur right there in the front of the mammoth. That looks great. You can even see that actually the throat, very nicely done. You can see some of the kind of skin and fur stretching off of the body right there. Again, the fur detail continues to look extremely nice as far as the wavy appearance to it. It looks nice and shaggy, and that dry brushing with that green coloration brings that all out beautifully. You can see again some more of that back here as we get into the rear leg. As you look at the thigh and everything, it's very nice, very large and muscular, just really making the entire thing look like a very large animal like it actually was. Beautiful foot sculpt yet again, a little sloppiness to the nail paint down here, but nothing that I would say is terrible. And I love how it's like primarily like a nice dark brown, but certain areas you can see like right here, you can see a kind of a lighter brown, almost like a brown wash that's been included, which allows even more paint variation to the figure, which I think is really nicely done. Then you have the tail back here. Again, that dry brushing continues down the tail to that little area of fur at the end of the tail. It looks extremely good over here also. And then looking over here, you can see really nicely how it's all stretching due to the mammoth having its head turned so sharply to the right. That detail, as far as that goes, is really nice attention to detail on the part of Collecta. I love how nicely stretched that all looks, and you can again see some more of that scruffy fur, also some more color variation as far as that kind of like lighter brown that I was just talking about at the rear leg on the opposing side. You can again see just generally how large this animal feels and how large it looks. Look at the size of that area of the leg. The leg just looks generally massive. Beautiful fur detail, and again beautiful dry brushing as we move down to the foot. Some alternate variations of brown down here as well. Some pretty nice looking painted nails over here also. And then coming back up here into the stomach region, you can again see how nice that fur detail looks. Still continuing with that nice green dry brushing, which somehow looks extremely cool on the figure. You can get an idea of the hip bone back here. And then moving down into that huge rear leg, everything looks incredibly nice back here. Again, the nail paint on this rear leg is also a little sloppy, but not too bad. The fur detail looks incredible. The nice dry brushing as well brings all that fur detail out beautifully. You can see some more paint variation here to the underside as far as like a darker coloration in the stomach region of the mammoth. Also some nice detailing here to the underside of the feet. And you can really see how nice the nails look from the underside of the figure. But honestly, this mammoth figure is absolutely gorgeous, and I am super, super excited to now have it in my collection. As far as a size goes, for a length, if we go from the tail to the top of the head, you are looking at, may not look like it from your vantage point, as your vantage point actually looking through the camera, it looks way off, but in person, if I lift my head up a little bit above the camera, I can get a very nice accurate idea of the measurement. It is about 7 inches or about 18 centimeters roughly, and then for a length to the top of the head, you are looking at about 5¼ inches or 13½ centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Bachylovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Collecta Deluxe Woolly Mammoth. And next to these figures here, you can really see that this mammoth is quite large, especially in comparison to Mr. Papo Rex, who is a pretty big figure. You can definitely tell that this mammoth from Collecta sports some overall impressive size, and I think that aspect really gives the figure an overall extremely striking appearance. So this Collecta Woolly Mammoth figure is awesome. It's not the best Woolly Mammoth figure you're ever going to find, but boy is it a really nice version of one. And again, one very interesting aspect of the figure straight away, which is probably the most interesting aspect in my opinion of the figure, is the fact that they've painted it with a nice green dry brushing over top of many areas, which I think is such a very unique and interesting idea on the part of Collecta. It's not often that you see a greenish coloration sort of used on a mammoth, and I think it actually looks extremely nice and really nice and natural on the figure as a whole. I think it's actually a really good idea on the part of Collecta that they use that, allowing this to have a little bit of its own unique appearance, but also, again, a very realistic and lifelike appearance. And if you take a look from like a little further back, you don't even really notice the green that much. It's not until you get really close that you'll actually pick up on that green dry brushing a little bit more. It still generally gives off that very nice dark brown type of a look that we always associate with the woolly mammoth. So it's very cool that they've kind of painted it this way, and I think it overall is really nicely done. The paintwork in general is beautiful, as you have so many different variations of lighter and darker browns, and all highlighted with that dry brushing. So the paintwork looks perfect, if you ask me, and really nice and natural overall. The sculpt, however, is still really nicely done. Beautiful fur detail included throughout the entire figure in every area. The tusks of the mammoth look fantastic, again with that beautiful weathering type of a paint application on the tusks, and just generally they look fantastic as far as the overall sculpting shape goes. The figure shows some nice movement throughout the body as far as like areas of the body stretching and everything depending on the movement of the body, like the area on the side of the neck where the neck is kind of turned and you can really see the skin and fur kind of stretching right there. So there are some really nice minor details to the figure as a whole, I think, that Collecta pretty much always includes on their figures. So this mammoth as a whole is a really, really nice mammoth from Collecta, and definitely a great choice if you are looking for a mammoth figure, especially currently during these wonderful winter months when you can have an awesome mammoth figure to include in some really cool dinosaur toy photography. And this is a really, really nice mammoth in pretty much every way. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on everythingdinosaur.com. So make sure you check Everything Dinosaur in the description. Go buy this fantastic Collecta Woolly Mammoth, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.